Hello everybody, welcome to another Socials. We're back. Lockdown 3. I know we had a live the other night which went down unbelievably. We had over 10,000 views in the first evening. And that always grows. So incredible results from the first live. So thank you so much there. But yeah, we're joined over in the island today with Nigel Kenny from Matrix. Thank you very much for joining us today, pal.
Back. One of my finest days last year in 2020 was 29th of April when I appeared on this here socials first, as I made loads of
Wow.
friends online and continue to build them since then. So Simon's platform has been a huge advantage to me in so
Oh,
many
thank you.
ways. Like I've built my own online teaching seminars basically over the lockdown, and a lot of your viewers have subscribed. So I'm very, very
Really?
pleased with that. And Simon, yeah, absolutely. So I suppose it was just something that I developed throughout lockdown number one, and it's there in the background whenever I need it. If I feel there's something I need to itch and get it out there, or if somebody contacts me and says, "Nigel, what do you think of this?" I create a course around it. They can come along and do their thing, and I'll educate them to the highest level. So I thank you for that, my friends.
Oh well, mate, you're more than welcome, and thank you for coming back because you was on live number 30, and if think right, I've just written live 66. So there's been 30 live since you in lockdown, and the comments are already flying in, and I will read them out soon. But tell us what you're going to do today for us.
Tell you, first of all, I'd like to know how everyone's December was,
Yep.
because mine was very much basically a wealth of techniques being thrown at me that probably surpassed the hour and 15-minute mark that I was allowing each salon guest to come in, because I'm sure the feedback, Simon, from salons, they were just bonkers for the 3 weeks we were allowed open. So creativity was probably, I wouldn't say it's an all-time low, but it was probably bottom of the priority list. It was literally get people in, get them out, and yet you still had a lot of people coming in that wanted a lot more, demanded a lot more, and probably our time scale didn't allow for that. So my presentation today is going to be based on the inspiration of the feedback I got from my salon guests in terms of their demands over Christmas, and also speaking to more senior hairdressers. Like when I knew I was coming on, and I was asking Simon to come on, which I was very grateful to come on, I
No,
said to
you're
myself,
welcome.
what could I show these guys that hasn't been shown? As you said, 66 lives. I'm sure anybody that's gone back to their salon since this thing has started, I'm sure they've become much, much better hairdressers. So that kind of put pressure on me and said to myself, what can I possibly do? So I went to some of the more experienced stylists, and I'm talking experienced stylists. I'm talking guys in their 60s and 70s that I've worked with over the years that are always almost afraid of education because they feel sometimes that they're out of place because they're old school and they want to come up to the curb, but they're just a little bit kind of intimidated by the modern way of hairdressing. I mean, you the likes of Hair Social and other platforms, the colors are incredible. The techniques are so fast and cutting edge. But for some people, they don't fit into their way of hairdressing, but yet they want to get there and they're a little bit intimidated by it. So balayage was coming up high on the priority scale, as it always has. Like, I mean, since the technique was introduced back nearly almost 12, 13 years ago at this stage on mainstream, it's been very sought after and new and better ways of trying to achieve it. So I like for me over the Christmas, I've even brought in my iPad because I've just got this picture that like was brought into me all the time. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it as well. I mean, you look at this and you say to yourself, "Oh my God, there's no way I'm going to get that done in that regular time frame."
Every
Me this
day.
time last year, oh my God, unbelievable. Like, I mean, every time I look at it, I'm thinking that is going to take about 3 hours to achieve that because young girls and young ladies have gone to a level now where it's not about, just having an amazing partying and a lovely hairline and off you go. They all want the Instagrammable looks. So they're coming along and they're tying their hair up and they do check rigorously. So to achieve something like that, it's not a matter of 4 packets up the back, 3 packets up the front, loads on the temples and stuff. This is where I've been flirting around with trying this Airtouch balayage for a while. Now I know Elena was on back in October and she done a lovely partial technique balayage with the Airtouch balayage. And I've been fascinated by it for a long time. So over the last 3 weeks, I've given it a huge amount of thought and consideration and colored maybe like I'd say 20 mannequin heads on it. And I have to say I love it. And I do think it is the way forward. I really do. I think it's going to change balayage forever. Like after trying and testing it, like all I can say is that it brings and coming back to the older generation, what they speak. they don't like a lot of the modern day hairdressing because we're far more aggressive on the hair than what we would have been years ago. Like loads of backcombing coming on, lots of heavy bleaching, and huge amount of teasing, and I suppose a whole lot of discomfort for maybe more mature clients that have very, very sensitive scalps at the basin as well. And I think we've all been very prone over time with the of like back coming in because we're just afraid of that harsh line and we haven't got time at the basin to be toned and stuff like that. And then obviously there's the more classical techniques. But sometimes if you want that huge amount of color towards the ends of the hair, like the back combing has been the way to go. So for me, I think this is a better technique, and it is something that's going to really, really change the industry. That Russian guy, I can't think of his name, Vladimir, he developed this last year, and when I saw it first, I thought it was just maybe fancy hairdressing for the cameras, and then I scrutinized it properly, and I just think it's absolute genius, and it's something that I really, really love. But technically, was in a lower ground level with my colleagues that have been using, it's been very much partial techniques, like a little bit of lightness here, a little bit of lightness there. I want to start using it for that picture that I showed you, for the seamless coverage that blondes are looking for, right from root to tip. And with that, like I've tried and tested it. Actually, a lot of you that would be in education and stuff would be very familiar with these pivot point mannequin heads that have got this fabulous, gorgeous, lovely head of hair, but they also have some amount of hair. It just takes ages and ages and ages to color it. So last night I went through one of them, which basically I created a strawberry blonde using the seamless Airtouch balayage, and this is how it looks now. Can get it up there. Absolutely unbelievably well. Now I can say with this look, it takes a lot of patience and time to create what we've created here, but it's worth it. So for those girls that come in and they're picking their hair up at the back and they're showing it just like that picture, it is definitely the way to go. So that
Do
is
you know what,
pretty much what I'm
Nigel?
going to show you guys. Yes.
We've got so many comments coming through, and as I'm reading them, it's just dawned on me that you've got music playing in the background, and Facebook are a bit arsy about it, and sometimes they might take the stream down afterwards. So obviously, I don't want you to lose any viewers, so I might have to ask you to turn your music down a little bit. Sorry.
No
But
bother.
I know you got your headphones in, so I am going to read out some of the comments.
Sure.
So we've got Sean is saying hello from Vancouver Island. So what you know, we're seeing us all over the world today. Um, we do love this in our salon, says Shimmer's Hair Salon, which is Lynn Webster. Eleni, which is in Cyprus, she said she loves the Airtouch technique. And then everybody's just coming in saying hi. People that you know, Deirdre is in here, and Nicola Soul, a regular who always comes on. So yeah, it's just great to see everybody here, and thank you so much for coming in.
And I'll try and make it worth your while. And I think like I've been looking for a demonstration like this has been quick and prompt, really, I suppose, with this technique for a long period of time. And so I couldn't find it. So I said I'd develop it. So questions I've asked myself really, why use this and why use it opposed to traditional methods? Number one, discomfort. Number two, it's a far more controlled look. You've got an awful lot more control over this look than you ever have. I find with people, even sometimes, like you're guessing sometimes the balayage, particularly if you're going for seamless coverage. And then when you're going to back comb, when you pull down this back comb, you lose a lot of that coverage at the top of the head, which is a bit of a bummer for all the world. So really, there is less room for mistakes when it's done properly and correctly. But what I would say to you as well, with the timing that goes into it, it is something that very much needs to be considered price wise, because consideration, it's probably going to take an extra 15-20 minutes to achieve this look to perfection. Then you're taking into consideration your toning, and then you're taking into consideration everything else after that. I probably myself would try to eliminate those things because if cost is going up, you don't want to be annoying clients too much as well. So with this particular look, I don't know if any of you saw my Instagram earlier on, but I had a mannequin head and it was a tricolor. It was green, yellow, and red. So I'm out of mannequin heads at the moment. So I had to come along and just remove all that color and recolor this base just to create something that I could work on it. So I lifted it all up to a yellow, colored this side basically with an 8A and 7N just to create maybe that 17 to 18-year-old girl's hair, maybe, yeah, that age bracket. These are the girls that are coming in looking for that look most of the time. And what I did was I colored one half of it so I could show you the results that I'm going to mimic on the other side when I'm actually going to use my technique. What technique is used hairs, I suppose, if you want to be scientific about it, or the peach fuzz, as we can call it sometimes as well, in order to kind of create the perfect blend the whole way through it. Now, this is which with the peach fuzz and the baby hairs, whatever you'd like to call it, those hairs are not developed just yet, but yet over time we've come along and we've been happy to kind of pull the hair up and drag it around. And the fact that those hairs aren't developed, it's causing lots of problems with the scalp. It's also causing lots of problems with those. You've got this constant underlying frizz that is just not good. So by using this technique properly, your dryer will completely and utterly flush out those hairs and allow them to become a blend with the color. And I absolutely love it, I have to say. So really big thing, less room for mistakes. It's all good. I'll go ahead and start my technique. So as I said, like I've already colored this side here. One thing I'll say as well is like money pieces have become such a big thing in the modern day hairdressing as well. By using Airtouch, it just avoids that silly look in here when you tie it back, where you've got that completely blocky look, which might look okay if you're very, very, very much kind of gifted with a nice round hairline. But after a week or so, like the angle of the growth is going to go one way and the angle of your technique is going to another. So you've got a triangle left there. With this, it's just allowing those little baby hairs to soften that money piece that, and it is just divine. I love it, and I'm going to be using an awful lot more of it. So, technique when you're going to come along and do the seamless coloring rather than partial techniques are an awful lot easier because you can be a little bit more selective with your sectioning and whatever way you might go about it. But when you're going for seamless coverage, you need to be spot on with your sectioning because this look is designed to carry the whole way through. It's almost like an all over color with maybe like 10 to 12% of the natural hair screaming through it. So when you're going to offer this service, the demands are going to be very high. The hairline has to be absolutely amazing. And the parting, everything needs to be absolutely spot on because it is going to be expected when you do charge what you're due to charge for this particular type of look. So yeah, so as I said, sectioning is very, very important. So I'm going to start off.
Well, while you're taking them sections, I tried to speak earlier and realised I was muted, but then I thought I won't interrupt him now because he was on one. But Cherie has said yes, she's seen it, and Claire calling. It was about 2 or 3 minutes ago. He was asking a question if someone had seen something, and a lot of people coming in saying they'd seen it. And then what have we got? Hair Bar Mary Kay. She's saying that she loves this technique. And then Alison O'Keefe. I put my glasses on now. Yeah, go on. I'll put myself in the top corner because I was in your way of your doll, so I had to move my face. Let me put myself over here. So I'm back, got my glasses, I could read the comments, I couldn't see anyone's comments, so I had to get my glasses. But yes, welcome everybody. We're just getting a few reports that we can't see the doll's head. If we could just bring it a bit more into the middle, just now. We were,
around.
in Nigel's defence, we were planning landscape, but the app I'm using, for some reason, weren't having it today, so yeah.
And sucked in all that Christmas fat to fit into this skinny poetry mode. Really, really important to get all your sectioning perfect for this because you don't want any, I suppose, little hiccups on the way. Like because if you leave out 5 to maybe 10%, and that's why it's not for everybody, I have to say. But I just think, like, if you're going to compete with all those amazing pictures that are coming in the whole time, you just have to come along and develop this skill in a way that, like, it's going to become a part of your everyday salon work.
So I've got a question here from Nicola Soul. She said, where do you buy your doll's heads from, please?
Most of my dolls' heads, Nicola, are sent to me by Matrix. They're Pivot Point, and they are pretty durable now, considering all the hardship that they've gone through. Like as I said, this particular one earlier on today was green, yellow, and red, and I have just bleached the crap out of it, I have to say, and it's still on her head. Now, mind you, when I was cleansing it, we probably lost a lot of the hair as well, but enough to show you what I'm all about with this anyway. But mainly, I think, as far as I know, like Pivot Point are the big suppliers that are out there. I can't remember the last company I got them from because, as I said, Matrix supply me all mine. I'm very, very grateful for that as well. But one thing I would say is I wouldn't necessarily be going to town on the whole, basically reusing them time and time again. You can color them as much as you want. But like bleaching them and pre-lighting them, they only have a certain shelf life with it. As you can see, if I came along and repeated this process again on this side, I would have a serious amount of alopecia on this particular head.
So
Right.
I've got a personal question then. It's one of my own, but I've been sent obviously the same dolls, and I find it really difficult to lift them, especially because people want to see vivid colours nowadays. If you want to do anything sort of pastel based, or you want to bring any sort of muted tones into it, I find it really difficult. So what would you advise someone who doesn't do colouring as often as you, and especially doesn't do them on dolls?
Like with the lighter ones, I mean, it's much easier to get lift into it. But like I wouldn't even, unless it's completely necessary, I wouldn't bleach these unless I really have to because they're very delicate. However, the likes of these babies here, I mean, these are the ones that probably Simon is referring to. Like the quality of the hair is excellent, but in order to get a serious degree of lift on it, you literally have to be minuscule with your sections. They need to be tucked like thread depth, as in like maybe like a quarter of an inch. And if it's not white, it's not bright. That's the way I look at it. Like, your pre-lightener literally has to saturate the whole section. You just have to load it on and smother both sides with your foil, and actually probably give it a little bit longer than what you normally would give a regular head of hair. Like, I mean, I would leave on my pre-lightener up to maybe sometimes like an hour and 10 minutes in these because they are quite durable, these dark head ones. But as I said, these ones are very fragile, the blonde ones, so I'd be very careful. But yeah, I generally feel I have no problem getting lift with these because with this baby here last night, like, I mean, I just used Light Master with built-in bonder. And I mean, I got really good lift in it. I mean, that wasn't even doing anything over the top. If you look at the ends of it there, like it's up to a really
Beautiful.
nice pale yellow. Yeah. So it lifted very, very well. So yeah, I just think be very, very sparing with the hair and also be very generous with your lightener. Because yeah, mannequin heads can be very frustrating. And the thing you don't want to do is go in and overlight them. So I'm taking my first section here. Just let me see that. And you take your smallest section. I recommend the whole way around the head that you take probably maybe like a quarter of an inch of a section. So, I mean, I personally myself, I like to use the Dyson. They're nice, they're light, they're small. Have your settings on cool, but on full blast. So, literally not holding the hair too tight. Just come along and literally, I'd say 2 seconds, and you'll get a small degree, like literally these little feelers here. So, and that's your first section. But it is really important that you do see those baby hairs as well, because if you don't, it's just going to look like a big blob and a slice. So, Simon earlier on, load on your lightener. I'm using Light Master again with built-in bonder. And as I said, if it's not white, it won't be light. So it won't be light. I mean, load it on. Don't be a bit shy about loading this on.
Yeah, I mean that's a great tip because there's 170 people watching a second ago, and I know a lot of hairdressers will be doing things at home just to keep themselves entertained and keep themselves sane. But yeah, it's a great tip. Do you apply heat to these dolls' heads as well?
When they're developing.
Sorry, I muted myself. Yeah,
Styling or the color taking?
sorry. Yeah, just for the development of the colour.
No way, they would completely disintegrate. Like, I mean, think
Yep.
about getting your Barbie for Christmas and putting a hairdryer and it's just going to go up in frizz. This is real hair, allegedly, but it's treated very, very, very synthetically as well. So you're going to be in a lot of brothers if you put any heat on this. The only heat I would put on it basically is a hairdryer or a GHD. Obviously not for the color, but like when you're styling it, but definitely not for the development of the color because it just ends up being a bad news story. So back on again. Now, when you're holding this, don't have it too tight because the hairs won't travel through it. Just literally have it enough so it's tight enough on your hand. 1, 2. I just brush it up and down once or twice. You've got those baby hairs there. Just drag them out again. And keeping in mind as well, we are going for seamless coverage. Now, with the side that I've done, I have a little bit of dimensional tones going through, which is technically basically your 7N and 8A in parts going through it. So occasionally I might come along and put a B in. This is basically just a blurred line that I'm putting in at the moment, which basically is what you'll see on the other side of the head when I show you in a second. and go right up like you're doing mesh. Now, a lot of people will be looking at this and say, why this opposed to just traditional mesh? The lines are more softer. The line is non-existent actually with this, where with your traditional highlights, it can be monotonous and very inconsistent. Like, you can be tempted maybe just to skip a few. And I just think around the hairline, you cannot rival the softness of the result that you get of this. It is just absolutely amazing. Now, you do need a bit of patience, definitely a bit of patience with it. But with that, like, I mean, you'll be rewarded severely at the end of it. So a
Got a
lot of
few
people have tried this.
questions in as well. Yeah, we've got a few questions about it. But just the main one is Neve just pointed out to me that we can't actually see the head again. Could we, maybe if we set you back a bit further because of the portrait mode, and then slightly. There we go. Slightly to the middle. No, other side. Sorry, that's the one. There you go. Perfect. All in now. It's all in. But yeah, we've got a couple of questions. Robin Lee Watson has said, "Are the matrix meshes able to be recycled?"
Are they able to be recycled? I don't think so. Like, I mean, unless now you're going to come along and rinse out every single individual packet and put it into the bin, I'm sure they can be. But generally, when we have them finished, like they're usually saturated in color, and we just bin them. We've never even thought of that, Rob, to be honest. But obviously, if they were, and somebody told me about it, we'd probably make an extra stronger effort because I don't know about you guys, but since we've returned back from lockdown, the amount of waste is just incredible. Like, I mean, we have everybody wrapped up in plastic. And we've everything basically we use as disposable towels, gowns, mesh, obviously, foil. And I actually bring home my own rubbish to the house every single day because we haven't got room for it here. And my rubbish count is up by about, I'd say, 1100%. My heart is broke because of this bloody COVID. But in saying that, like, obviously we're keeping safety first. But if mesh was something that could be recycled, I would be delighted. We could cut down on something because we are going through an unbelievable amount of rubbish at the moment.
Yeah,
So are some of the salons there too.
there is a few people that do recyclable mesh in a few different brands. I'm not 100% sure because of the stickiness of the Matrix one.
Yeah.
But Cherie Thompson Saran, who's coming on later on, as you can see on the advert on the screen, she's said, "Do you always use mesh packets and not foil?" And Eleni has asked, "Is it harder on the doll or does real hair work better?" Oh no, sorry, she's stating it's harder to do this on a doll. Real hair, it works really easy.
Are singing from my hymn sheet because to get that Felius hair out, I mean, obviously the natural head is designed to have the Felius peach fuzz, where these dolls' heads are manufactured to be as maybe uniform and strategic as possible. So therefore, like, I mean, you mightn't have as much of the baby hairs there, where 100% it is much, much, much easier to use a natural head of hair, obviously, to achieve this look. And also, I would say for me, the only reason I'm using the mesh on this opposed to foil, because generally for techniques like this, I would actually prefer to use foil because you're using quite an amount of it. And let's face it, like mesh is a lot more with the, and if I would extension butter that lightener to get the maximum lift that I possibly can in it. But generally, I suppose with most highlighting techniques that really are off the scalp or maybe that little bit more flippant, I would generally use foil, probably from an expense point of view, been realistic about it because, mesh is pricey as well. And if you can achieve a look with using toilet roll, I'm all about that too. Whatever you can use that's basically a bit more reasonable. Definitely. So, yep, so we're moving on to our next section up here at the crown area then. Now, you can look at this color. It's not the most attractive, but it's actually usually the ideal base to achieve something like this. For the simple reason, I would say, if somebody comes into me and they're on a level 5 and below, I will probably refuse to do it because it's just very, very stressful on the hair. And generally, bases like that with this type of look and young girls, they probably have way too much hair and they will probably never pay the money that they need to get it done. Like, I mean, this is quite a slow technique. And with that, I mean, you move quite slowly through the hair. And, by the time you get to the top, there could be a lot of damage. Now, as I said, I'm starting off at an extremely low developer with this, and as I move up, I'll get to a higher developer. But in saying that, like with the darker granular heads, they generally anything below 5, they're usually thicker and much more bulkier and require an awful lot more speed and a lot more respect for the integrity of the hair because of the grains of deposited in it. back, please God, whenever it might be, they'll be taking an awful lot of highlights, because I just feel the demands that are out there at the moment with the modern day lady, they want much more for their buck, and they want much more coverage with their lights. I remember going years ago on my first highlighting course, and I remember the instructor at the time encouraging us not to spend all day highlighting the hair, that you just come along and you go maybe a couple of packets up the back and just concentrate more on the parting and the temples. And you know what, for a long time I worked when I was training in a really, really busy salon, and I used that advice, and it actually served me very, very well. Because I suppose even people, when they tied up their hair, they were more focused on their hairline and didn't really focus on this section. But like with all these Instagrammable looks that are at the moment, I mean, the hair has been mapped to perfection and everything is checked. And really, to be fair, if you are someone that takes a huge amount of pride in your work, you like to do the color properly as well and correctly, because your person wears the brand that you possess. And if they don't look good, you don't look good. So this is why this is the way forward, I find myself. That I've already previously done. This camera, as it's a bit more. So I'm going to come along and transfer one or two B's into, bring some dimension, so we can actually make a little bit more of an emphasis of the money piece going forward.
We've had a few questions, people probably obviously just joining or come out and come back in, but asking why you're using a hairdryer, and someone saying, is it to push the natural short hair out?
For anyone that's just joining, this is Airtouch technique. This was founded by a Russian guy a year ago, and I just taught myself it was fancy camera work. But the whole purpose of it is the hairdryer, when the hair is held at a certain amount of tension, running it up and down maybe 3 seconds, it's going to loosen up all these little felius hairs. Now, we were always told they were felius hairs when we were educated, but technically, for anyone, they're just peach fuzz or baby hairs. Color the hair, these are going to amalgamate lovely with this, and you're probably going to have maybe 90% of the hair colored seamlessly, and it's a much, much softer structure up around here as well. It just gives a much, much nicer blended type of a highlight. And I'm using it for coverage today because that's the way I basically want to color the hair. But for like partial blonde techniques, Elena that was on there a while ago, she done a beautiful balayage back on the 27th of October using the technique, and it was quicker and faster. And it's something that I think myself can't be rivaled in terms of the blend and the softness that you get. So that's basically why I'm using the hairdryer. Now, the other thing I would say is, when you're using a hairdryer, be mindful that you're going to be lifting this hairdryer probably for the bones of maybe an hour and 15 minutes. So that's why I like the Dyson. It's nice and light, it's quick, it's handy. The nozzle is quite nice. Like if you've got something really, really big, like a Paralux that's quite heavy, it gets heavy after a while as well. And unless you're in the gym 24/7, the arms are going to really be cut off you from doing that. So map out the hair, plan about what you're doing. And certainly for this type of technique, I would just keep basically it as simple and keep it as light as possible on the hair type. A V in there a second ago. Now I'm going back to my blunt blurred lines. So this type of highlight is basically the one that will give you the best coverage. Like for anyone that's only tuning in now, I did show a picture at the start, and we were getting a lot of those requests. Like the girls that were just coming in, and it was just the most amazing coverage you could possibly come across with highlighting techniques the whole way through. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, if I'm going to highlight this, it's going to take me like 2 hours. And so usually you just come along and suggest something else, where this is the answer. This is the way forward. And this is what's going to give you that result. And it's just you're probably going to get more longevity out of it as well, I think, as well, because the fact that you're taking away any form of definition whatsoever and you're highlighting just makes the look so soft. Because it's been bleached to death. So I am moving quite quickly through it. But generally with most hair types, like it can probably take you, I would say minimum maybe minutes to achieve this type of, to factor that in, as I said, into the price as well. Now, with the look that I achieved on the other side of this, which I'll show you in a second now, in order for me to, I suppose, save time, I kind of looked at my resources and tools. Like the fact that you're getting a maximum lift of a pale yellow on this particular look, I just use the platinum matrix colored mousse as my toner afterwards. Now, most of you that operate in salons in the modern day will tone the hair rigorously, but most people won't leave it in long enough, and like they just think it's feasible to use a toner for 5 minutes, and it looks great when you're leaving. But like a toner for 5 minutes, there's not enough action on the hair in order for it to hold long enough, and it's just going to disappear out of the hair. And the other thing as well is it's toned wet at the basin, and so you're diluting it. So if that's your style, I would suggest to you maybe try some of this platinum temporary mousse, because realistically, you're probably going to get the same duration out of that as you are toner if you're only leaving it on 5 minutes. And that is the look really we got with that. And like, yeah, like, I mean, there we go. You have to be kind of a little bit more wary that it is a little bit more difficult to blow dry into the hair, but it's probably going to last the exact same amount of time as what your toner that you've only left on for 5 minutes is. So that's something else you need to take into consideration as well. The other thing as well is, in order to kind of
sorry, buddy. It's very difficult sometimes. I never know when to chip in. Jess White said, "Hi Nigel, does this mean that you can take larger hair sections?" Sorry, the broadcasting has moved. Or what size sections would you recommend?
Technique, I wouldn't go beyond like a quarter of an inch. Why would I not go beyond a quarter of an inch? Because number one, I want as much coverage as possible on it, and number two, I want to see these hairs. So give you an example, right? If I come along and I want to take a bigger section here, and I pick it up. So let's just say this is my big section and the technique was different. Pick the dryer up. There's nothing really happening. There's nothing coming out. Other things then that will happen then is I see people doing this a lot as well, where they up and down the hair like this, and you pick it up then, and you've got a couple of hairs as well, and all this basically comes into your time factor as well, because that's 10 seconds out of your hour and 15 minutes, and they all add up after a while too. But like, even at that, like, I mean, you're not going to get a huge amount of hair. So I personally myself like to keep the sections like to a quarter of an inch. I think a quarter of an inch is plenty, even finer than that sometimes, depending on the texture and the density of the hair, because you're going to get those felius hairs out, and your look's going to work. Because other than that, then, like, you're just left with big chunks, and you're not going to get to the root, and it's just not going to be messy. It's going to be very messy, should I say. What I would say as well is, like,
Elaine is asked, what's your opinion on toning dry hair? Great question.
Way to go. I mean, if you can factor it into your service in your salon, tone, like, the hair is more primed and prepped, like, for it. Like, I mean, we use color sync an awful lot in our salon, which is our quasi-permanent, which is phenomenal. But 100%, we get far better results from dry hair, and like much more longer lasting results. It's fool's paradise. I mean, like, I think it's just a lot of us that work in a salon, maybe a lot of us that own salons would have come from a generation maybe where we started our career in really, really busy salons, and that toning is only a new thing, and we become frightened of toning. So we come along and we've lifted our hair to a pale yellow, and we mix up something like a level 10. We see it on the hair at 30 seconds and it's going blue. We get it off straight away, like, holy crap, like, it's going to blue. Obviously, it doesn't go blue, but you're very happy with the result. You send them out the door, a week later, God, my toner didn't last. And, we're coming along using the excuse then saying, oh, it must be your hair, Mrs. Flanagan, or whatever. It's not your hair. It's the type of hair that it was applied on. If you're applying any form of color onto wet hair, it's diluting it. I mean, I see a lot of these techniques online at the moment, wet balayage and stuff like that. And I mean, for the purpose that they serve, that they work really, really well. But all you're doing is diluting down the light master to something maybe that it's not really designed to do. So I just think it's totally pointless myself. We try in the salon we can at all to tone and dry hair as much as possible. It'll last much longer, results are far more vivid. Trust the process. That's all I will say. Like, if you are one of these salons that, like, freak out when you see toners going on to dry hair that it goes blue or gray or whatever, just give it 20 minutes. I don't know maybe what brand you use or whatever, but generally most of them are a safe bet. This whole thing about having to stand over a toner for like 20 minutes to supervise it, I mean, I just think that's a manufacturing flaw myself. A lot of the top brands it might be a 5 minute toner like what we have with Matrix, which is like a pre-tone, and that's a different situation. But like, for your full-on final results, I personally feel like, you shouldn't have to supervise it, because if you're supervising it, you're waiting to see the look that's to be achieved. But the look that you're trying to achieve maybe within 5 to 7 minutes of that toner is not what it's designed for. And it's just going to pee straight down the sink, and you've got lots of problems afterwards. That's where the colored mousses are really, really effective, I have to say, because if you have someone that's trying to get to hold on to that toner as long as possible, the platinum mousse in particular is a front runner for us. It'll hold on to your SBAs and your SPVs no matter how long you leave it on the hair. It's fabulous, I have to say.
That's a
Why
great
do a lot
tip.
of do a lot of the guys that are on at the moment, they all tone with wet hair?
Yeah, good question. What's everyone's opinion? Do you tone wet, dry? Do you prefer to blast it dry? Some people do it 80%. It depends what colour we're doing. We even do that in our salon. We give it wring it out and then blast it to sort of like 80% before applying. But yeah, there's some couple of questions here. Rick Roberts says hello.
Buddy, God, I miss Rick, my dance
Uh,
partner from Budapest.
yeah, he also says, what do you think of the big trends with colours this year?
Because I think creativity is at an all-time low at the moment because of what's happening in the universe. So trends seem to be very, very much. I think vivids are really, really big. Like in the Instagram world now, in the real world, they don't seem to be, I suppose, really taken off as much because salons aren't open in order to fulfill them. But like, I think vivids will be big. Now, when we came back after July and June, we expected an awful lot more of it because there was a huge presence of it online. And the other thing as well is that I felt people wanted to feel as alive as possible. They were cocooned up for 16 and a half weeks in their house, and they would go out and they'd do something crazy, like more, not more or less vivids, more pastel shades and stuff like that. Something that they felt that they always wanted to do, and maybe just never had the chance to do it because they were working in a professional job or whatever. We also sold a huge amount of, mousses and anything that was in the form of a vivid that we could retail back in that first lockdown. And funnily enough, like, people, when they came back in to actually get their hair done in the real world, maybe 10% of them went for a vivid. And but they were back in maybe a week later saying that their boss hated or whatever. So I think deep down there is a vivid in every single one of us. But I just think, like, because of work and stuff like that, that people just can't express themselves the way they're allowed to. But now the fact that most people are working from at home, you can wear what you want. So probably I'd say, if you were to ask give an answer on it, I would definitely say that we're exactly where we were in 2020 in terms of trends. I mean, if you look at the British collection this year as well, the winners and the entries, there was a huge amount of vivids there that I hadn't seen before, and it was fantastic to see. But you could read the mind of the hair professional behind it. That, I mean, being locked up at home, they were just dying to express themselves. So like, they wanted to express themselves through color, and that inspired a lot of us as hair professionals to get into salons and create that. And I think people that were in the chair wanted it, but society, when you get back to reality in your office, won't allow it. So I'd say, for going forward for the year, I think we're going to be looking at this an awful lot more again: balayage, seamless coloring and stuff. Not because people wanted it, it's because it's more socially acceptable, which is sad, really, in a way, when you see what can be done. And what you can see has been done on the hair socials for the last 6 to 9 months as well. It's just been incredible. So it's an awful shame.
Yeah,
And
brilliant
this
point.
is
Going back to your earlier question, I keep muting myself, which is why I delay that question. Sorry. Mainly dry. It seems to be the majority vote. I'm reading back here now. But Cherie Thompson, obviously, Thompson Sarah, an apology, says depends on the target colour. Mostly slightly damp or dry application for toners. But yeah, I agree. It depends on what you're doing, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
in the salon guests that you have as well, like, and how frequently they're going to be coming back visiting. What's their tax bracket as well? Because some people will not mind when their toner fades really quickly. They will nearly expect it because they want to be in the salon every week for a blow dry. With the modern day that we're in, I think people want more value for money. So I think, given that little bit of extra time to kind of create longevity in someone's life, they are going to respect you a little bit more. And I think if it's explained, because some people want in and out of the salon, where if you come along and you sit down and explain, Mrs. Riley, if you sit down for an extra 15 minutes and allow me to apply this dry, I'm not going to see you for 6 weeks. If it's applied in, out now, you're going to be on the phone to me in 10 days' time complaining that your toner faded. So
Yeah.
time has become the new finance and currency, I think, now, since, particularly because of COVID. You
Well,
know.
there's a great question earlier, but I couldn't find the time to get it in actually, and it's just reminded me then that someone's asked what would you charge for this? Would it be any different to a typical highlights?
This particular service, I mean, it all comes down to time. Like a lot of people will charge by like I don't know what it's like in the UK, but over here in Ireland, it's like €1 a minute. It's the easiest way to spectrum it. So like if you're going to be spending, you know, euro, I mean maybe an hour and a half, and that's your €90. And then obviously if you factor development time and processing, I mean you could pay anything up to €200 for this entry level because it takes that amount of time. And I think if it's explained properly and people want it, they will pay it as well. And that's just entry level. I think coming into a salon with pictures, like expecting a full head of highlights to achieve this, is not going to be a runner compared to the way it used to be before. So I think you just need to take a stance. But that's where consultations are really important. I think if you explain to people why you're charging what you're charging, people are very understanding. And the ones that aren't understanding will go to another salon and they'll be told they'll get this service for a cheaper price, but they won't, because there's no way any self-respecting stylist will spend 3.5 to 4 hours maybe trying to create this and charging them half the price as you do. So I think it's important to be upfront with people, but like usually that's how it works in Ireland. For the length of time they're in the salon, it's like €1 a minute, typically. Hairline here. With this type, obviously the hairline is a softer area, so we need to kind of miniaturize our sections even from 1/4 of an inch almost to 1/8 of an inch. Now you're thinking to yourself, oh my god, that's going to lengthen the journey. It's not really, because I mean you've got half the hair on the hairline, and the hairline, as we know, is full of Thelia's hairs because of ladies tying it back the whole time and stretching it. So therefore you're going to actually find this probably the easiest place to do your technique, which is gas, because with your traditional highlights it would take an awful lot longer to achieve it.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, that's a lot of people on the pricing. Eleni says she charges €100 plus the toner, etc. Um, so Hair Bar Mary Kay has put, if you plan to do a toner dry, would you factor in the time for the price it takes you longer? Basically, would you, when you're drying it, you charging for that time as well?
Mary actually worked with me many moons ago. She's moved back to Yorkshire now, so she's probably an amazing hairdresser under my guidance, I would say. But Mary would be a very, very quick, busy hairdresser as well. And I certainly would, Mary, for every single amount of seconds and time that you spend. It's like me going to a solicitor or going to a dentist. That's the way they charge. And like, we become such an important part of society. That's the way we need to charge as well. I mean, a lot of people, like when salons reopened, people re-looked at their pricing structure and said to themselves that, like, I've been not charging for toners for the last couple of years. I need to factor in this. And I've also not been charging for bond even. And I need to factor this in as well. And also we have lighteners now with bond, which is a little bit more expensive. But people, because they haven't got the confidence to come along and maybe say that it's an extra service, we're at a massive loss. I mean, if you multiply up the amount of tubes that are going down the sink because you haven't charged for the toner, I mean, it's like this. It's very, very simple. You cannot achieve. Oh, there goes the Dyson. You cannot achieve the look unless you're toning it. And I think if people come along and that's explained to them, they're pretty happy with that. But if you come along and send them to the desk and just charge them a different price to what they would have been charged for ages, they're going to be disappointed. So I think consultation is really, really important with that. I mean, it's worked for us very, very well since we've come back. I think the vast majority of salons did increase their prices when they came back because they were operating at a much, much, I suppose, lower capacity. And but yet the jobs were an awful lot bigger. Some people bought into it, some people didn't buy into it. But I think at the end of the day, people know now, 6 months on, that they respect you at least for what you've had to do to your business in order for it to happen. And one of those things, definitely in my experience, was giving toners for free was absolutely ludicrous, because there is no way we can achieve the looks that we have out there at the moment without toners. So therefore, toning and pricing, it's a no-brainer. It just has to be done.
Absolutely, that's one thing. It's one topic. It's actually something I was thinking about doing a bit of a podcast on and getting people like yourself, because I know how successful you are in your salon, and Eleni in Cyprus, and getting all different opinions, because it's easy for you. It's hard when your friends say, sorry, when your colleagues say, oh yeah, charge what you're worth, but then you tend to be friends with everybody, and it's very difficult to differentiate business and friendships.
And I mean, you learn an awful lot about your self-worth and your self-value. I mean, you are the man until you change your prices. Your loyal clients, your understanding clients will understand that The ones that maybe are bargain hunters more so than are after the best won't understand that, so therefore they tend to leave. But I find if you are giving up your best and giving 100%, they will eventually come back. And that's not being cocky, because I mean, you have to measure yourself in every single woman that walks out of there, and they'll measure themselves based on the hair that they got done in your salon opposed to the next salon that may be charging a little bit cheaper, that mightn't even be doing toners because they mightn't be even at that level at the moment. And I generally believe if you back yourself every single time and you stand by your work totally, they all come back at some stage. And I mean, it's so important to get them back as well, because at the end of the day, like, I mean, I'm so grateful for all my salon guests. I have to say, like, without my salon guests, I wouldn't have anything. For what anything I have in life today is because of them, because of they bought into what I've done and they've encouraged me. And but I have to return that favor to them by being honest and upfront with them in terms of, for me to achieve what I want to achieve, there has to be complete and utter transparency with it. So therefore, I think we need to man up and explain why we're doing what we're doing, rather than just send them to the desk with the embarrassment of, by the way, love, that's an extra €30. But you had nothing different done since the time you came back in March. You know, I'd love to come on a podcast and speak about that, because I could actually write a book on it, because it works both ways. Because I mean, we need to show a bit of integrity and a little bit of respect to the people that are coming in as well. And it's like me going into my favorite Chinese restaurant and I get the same thing, and all of a sudden then I'm charged for spring rolls that I wasn't charged the last day. Of course you're going to question it. And it depends on the way you respond to that question is the deciding factor whether you're going to have that salon guest in your salon or not. And that's my opinion on it anyway, my experience.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Well, what we'll do is I'll pencil that in. We'll do it sometime next week. It'll just be an audio, and well, in fact, we might even sit down and have a chat on camera, and we'll get it out there.
Bring it on, big time.
We have a question again. I know it sometimes feels like repeating yourself, but I think somebody just tuned in. We have 176 viewers live, and they're just asking about the hairdryer again, please.
Well, I tell you, this was a Dyson, but I dropped it, and half it is gone now at this stage. But what the hairdryer has been used for, we're creating a seamless blonding technique using Airtouch. Airtouch being blowing out the felius and the baby's hairs to create a seamless coverage, which is a stronger, more softer alternative to full heads of highlights. It's based on an image I showed the guys at the start of the presentation, which gives you seamless blonde highlighting the whole way through the head. Something that you would be waiting for nearly 2 weeks with a head of highlights. With this, it's that little bit more swift and more effective, and it's a much softer look. And the hairdryer is just literally pushing the hairs out of the way that I don't need. The mesh is lightening the hairs I do need, fusing it together, and you've got yourself the perfect Kardashian blonde when they're around. So if you missed out on the start of it, I'd suggest later on just go back and check it out, because it's a technique that's going to take over the world. It's been huge in Russia and Europe, and I've been hearing a lot about it, but it's going to be going global. And I personally feel myself down the line, it might eventually replace traditional highlighting.
Well, that's an interesting fact. I mean, while there's 200 people just tuned in now, by the way, just tell us about yourself. And you said that on Live 30 you came on Hair Socials, and then you've gone on to do your own education.
Like Simon and I worked together with Matrix as artists, and when Simon started this platform, I was fortunate enough for him to come along and ask me to come along and demonstrate anything really. So I think it was basically I was doing a shine line technique, and based on that, one live, I built a lot of contacts. A lot of you guys that might be tuned in at the moment, and I'm very, very grateful. A lot of you are digital friends. I haven't actually met you physically, but a lot of you have bought into what I do. I'm a salon owner here in Ireland. I've been in education for the last 20 years also. But through the help of friends, I developed my own digital online academy that really soared, I suppose, throughout lockdown. And a lot of the guys that were sitting watching this, I got the opportunity to show you, to obviously 200 people or whatever that have been on it, what I can do. And so I would do Zoom training. I would do also package training that you can come along and buy some of my courses, and they're yours for life. It could be basically anything from bleaching 16-week regrowths, creating bespoke looks using things that you've never even imagined in your life, and color concoctions and formulas that you'd never realize would work. And I have to thank Simon for that, really, first was getting me to meet a lot of you. So this is like speed dating for me, like I'm meeting lots of chicks, and it's all good.
Oh, I'll
And
take
dudes,
that.
obviously.
I'll take that. I'm loving the chat, by the way, everybody. Well done for that. Keep it coming. There's lots of comments. I'm liking the little debates on the mesh. Some people comparing their mesh about the recycling conversation. Maura says she has Pro Care mesh, but I find it doesn't. It lifts the root a bit because it doesn't stick flat to the hair. I can vouch for the Matrix one, not because I don't actually use it in my salon, because I find that it's very time consuming and my clients won't pay for that time, so I try to cut costs where I can. But it sticks, and it sticks so much you cringe getting it out sometimes.
Yeah, it is. That's why you need to be really, really generous with your water when you're taking this out, because it can create an electrolysis effect, because it is really, really sticky. Like it might be a little bit more expensive than what you might pay for the likes of ProCare, but it is definitely the best. I mean, like I've gone through lots of different brands, cheaper brands, because mesh is expensive and I'm not happy. Like, I'm starting my highlighting techniques and the foils are slipping, or the mesh are slipping out, and I'm getting seepage at the back. It is worth it. Like the glue in this is so, so strong. I mean, if you haven't got them, it is worth the money. Generally, I feel myself anyway. You need to be mindful with your mesh as well. I see some people doing crazy things as well with balayage and stuff, where they might come along, they'd have the hair down to here, and they'd have their mesh packet open, they'd saturate the piece, then they'd come along and get another mesh packet and smother it. So you're using two mesh packets at the price of one, and that is ludicrous, especially if you're a business owner. If you're in business and you see that happening, you're like, get out. You're not working for me anymore. And that's the way it
Yep,
goes for me. So
I
moving
agree.
on, I'm coming on to the front section, which is the money piece. Now, this is why I love this technique more than anything. I mean, money pieces are huge and they've been around for a long, long time. But with this, I feel using the Airtouch, it gives you the softest is tied back. I mean, if you can look at that a little bit closer, when you do create a money piece, like it's usually a slice that's back to back or a weave. With the weave, you're generally probably going to end up maybe having a little bit more of the natural hair than you'd like. So therefore, that's going to cause problems with darkness around the hairline. Then sometimes people will opt for a slice, and when the hair is taken that fine, it can more often than not seep onto the scalp. With that, then like you've got blobs of color coming on. With the Airtouch, it just pushes out these little tiny baby hairs, which can be a catalyst for your look looking far more expensive than the neighbor down the road that's doing exactly what I spoke about earlier. It's just a matter of maybe like leaving out, I'd say 5 to 10 hairs that the dryer will take care of you. And once you basically put your slice in around here, when the hair is tied back, they won't know themselves. It is just fab. So I'm going to try that now. So again, you're just taking literally, I'd say less than an eighth of an inch at the front hairline. And this is so important because this is the one thing that everyone sees, and it's the one thing that they see, and it's become a huge feature. It's around the face, basically it heightens the eye color, pops the skin color. It's really, really important. So again, getting your Dyson, which I use preferably with this because it's nice and light, and the nozzle basically is nice and fine that I can get it out. Cold air as well for anyone that's only tuning in now. You don't want to put hot air and then put color on. It's going to cause all sorts of problems and seepage. Full temperature, full pressure, and straight away you can see your baby hairs are out. So I'm just going to put it up really close here. See, it's just like individual little hairs, which make no sense now when you're applying your lightener. When this is rinsed and they tie their hair back, they're going to thank you for it because it really softens the whole look, and it's phenomenal. I have to say, it's made such a huge difference to my finishes since I've tested this anyway. And I certainly won't be going back to putting money pieces in the hair the traditional way with slices, because it just obeys the hairline way more.
Couple of quick shout outs while I can. Um, Siobhan Dickens and Dan Arsley, I think it was, bear with me. Yeah, Dan Arsley, both new to the street, never watched a Hair Socials before, so they're saying thank you very much, number one, and then they're loving it. But there's a lot of compliments coming in, mate, and over 200 viewers, 215 we're on now. And the lady's preaching and flying the flag. Welcome to the best online free education.
And this is it, guys. Like, I mean, for any of you that are new to this platform at the moment, I mean, the amount of free education you're getting on this, I mean, the work and the time and the hours that go into creating what this is. I mean, up to last year, like, I mean, there's no such thing as free education. You can come along and think there is, like, working for brands and stuff like that. You think your education is free, but it's not. You pay for it in some way. This is completely free, and Simon has reached out and he's accessed some of the biggest artists, hair professionals, and personalities in the UK and Ireland. And it's a testament to Simon that he had that approachability and likability to get him on the screens, because like, for not for everybody, this is not natural for anybody to be standing in front of a camera sharing your knowledge. And for the shy, conscious people, like, I mean, you might have amazing hairdressers, but they mightn't be necessarily the best communicators. But Simon has brought the best out in everyone. And by bringing the best out in everyone, I think that he has portrayed a huge, amazing platform for education. And I mean, if whatever you've missed in the last 66 lives, even down to business, do yourself a favor and look back, because I mean, it looks like we're going to have a little bit longer in this lockdown than what we might like, but you will go back a far greater hair professional than what you were. And I mean, this is why every one of these opportunities need to be used, because when we get back, I mean, everyone's going to be looking to basically try to improve what they're doing. Even in some cases, people are going to up their prices again, because being closed for that length of time, you're looking at closing down. Go back with all this knowledge, all equipped with you, and people are going to respect you far more. And the other thing as well is it gives you something to live for. Like Hair Social, 6 o'clock every evening. It's something to look forward to, because there's only so many Zoom bingos you can do, or like go for walks, and it takes the emphasis off how fat you're after getting over Christmas. Speaking from my personal experience, obviously, as well, because this belt is so tight. But like, it's just great. And I mean, I can't speak highly enough of Simon, what he's created. And I think they need to build a statue of him over in the UK for it. I can see it actually straight away. With a Burnley jersey on, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not many of us around wearing these shirts, so I have to fly the flag where I can. Sarah Rule said she's recommended this out to all the students, which is brilliant. Thank you so much for that. A few people saying they're absolutely loving it. They've not seen it before, which is amazing. There was a question earlier, and it brings it on nicely, because you're talking about the money piece, for example. I know you slice a money piece, and that's a purpose felt thing, but the technique that you've been doing throughout, where you've just been slicing it, air drying it, would you ever weave them sections or not?
Then it's not necessary. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean you don't have to weave. So if you pick up a section, a weave section is generally, you're taking out maybe 50% of the hair. So it's a very, very different type of finish, and it will definitely clash. And I actually have a model, a mannequin somewhere at home, like actually doing a side-by-side comparison, like of seamless highlighting and weaves. And there is quite a difference, I have to say. Like, the weaves do create an awful lot more of a definite look, even though you'd associate weaving with being something very soft and something natural. Compared to this, there's actually quite a difference. Like, this is just so seamless and so blended. Against weaves, there's that little bit more structure that's there. But if you do decide to kind of put the air dryer on a weave, so let's just say this is our weave here, and we put the hair dryer on it, you're going to be left with very little hair to highlight. I mean, like, you're gone probably from 50% to maybe like 20%. It's not something that I would oppose you do, but it's not necessary. It's completely not necessary. I mean, it defeats the purpose of the technique. Now, depending on the look that you're after, but for this look, I personally feel myself, there's just no need for a weave. So like, taking these, there's no such thing as a slice really in this technique, because the hairdryer is going to soften it every single time. So I would say more blurred line rather than a slice is probably a better term or abbreviation for this type of look.
That's great. Trevor Creed, Mr. L'Oreal Ireland Salesman of the Year, or whatever it was he's won this time. He's asked, what home care would you recommend for this product? For this look, sorry.
Trev, actually, he always gets in there, doesn't he? In fairness,
he does.
In order for me to prepare this look, Trev, I have actually used Matrix's newest technology, because I wanted a bit of volume so that I can get underneath it. So Matrix have just launched this range of products. It's in the high amplify total results range. It's a root wash, which is technically like a clarifying shampoo that will remove any of the odor or the oils in the hair. It's just, for me specifically, I would just use it on the root area. And I think with this as well, like, you're going to have a lot of flatness for a while, because it's going to be heavily colored. This is amazing. But what's even more amazing, I have to say, if you haven't come across this yet, this Shine Rinse is incredible. Have you used this yet, Simon?
No, is the answer. However, right, hang on, hold fire before we all have a go at me. Check this out. It's here, underneath my cupboard now, wrapped up. We still got the film on it. I got it, And at the minute, I can't go upstairs for reasons. I've injured myself, so I can't get up the stairs. My doll's headstand, the freestanding one, is upstairs in my salon, and I keep forgetting to send somebody in to get it. So yeah, I'm going to do something with it, but I haven't done it yet.
I would say that what's very different about this opposed to conditioner is, I mean, we have a lot of clients that come into our salon that has fine hair and they'll go for a technique like this. And when you tell them you're putting conditioner on their hair at the base, and they'll freak out, and you need conditioner to get a comb through that. This is designed to create like shine by about 80% more, but it's also very weightless, and it actually gives a little bit of volume in the hair, which most traditional conditioners don't. So it's even measured on the side here that you can come along and see in mils. So you'll put about 10 mils onto the hair, throw it around, you leave it 8 seconds. It's actually timed for 8 seconds. You rinse it out, and there is no weight whatsoever in it, but the shine is incredible. And for a look like this, I would recommend to start using stuff like this, because you're getting the volume in your hair, you're getting the condition. The detangling is something that's going to happen automatically as well. And then obviously, then if you want to go ahead and maybe not shampoo your hair for a while, they also have a fabulous dry shampoo with it as well, which I'm never usually a big fan of dry shampoos. Usually I hate them. I just think it's laziness, people not washing their hair. This I love. I even use this in my own hair today before I came in, and I shampooed my hair last night. It's fabulous. There's no trace of any odor in it whatsoever, and it's really good for volume. It almost feels like a volumizing powder, but actually having that tacky texture in the hair as well. So that's the home care Trev I'd be recommending my Melissa here. Following on just to the last section of my technique, I so I will follow a pattern that I'm going up the side. So I want these two to meet in the center. So I'm not going back with my this, because it can actually sometimes look a bit like a slice. So you follow the pattern of the hairline up right area here, and that's why when you get to this center parting here, it's really, really important to know where your packet goes. So I'm going to talk you through that when I get to it, but continue with your same pattern. So as I'm getting to the top, I'm going to continue just using my blurred lines rather than my Y's or my B's. I'm telling you, if you're not using this, sorry.
Cherie loves that, by the way. She commented that earlier. She loves the description of blurred lines. She thinks that's brilliant. And Elaine is complaining because once again we keep advertising Matrix, which is not on purpose. It's just that I have a lot of friends in Matrix, but sadly they don't get to have Matrix in Cyprus. Sorry, I muted it. Basically, they don't have a distributor, I believe. I think that's the case, but Elaine will clear that up for me, I'm sure.
She use.
Good question. I'll put it out there. What do you use, Elaine? I think she uses Affinage. I can't say that word, but that one.
Yeah, good brand, nice stuff. It's actually, they do it here in Ireland also. Yeah, well, I tell you, Elaine, I've been looking at a lot of your work, and whatever you're using, it's working really, really well for you. And fair play to you for being a huge contributor to my education for the last couple of months, because I've learned some amazing stuff from you as well. And again, credit to Simon for finding her. And I love her new hair color as well. The blonde is fabulous now.
Yeah, it's looking good actually. It's funny you say that. A lot of people say, "Oh, thanks for that," and like you just said, then, "Oh, well done to finding her." But I always believe that you put yourself on the stage. I'm just providing the stage.
A lot of people have to back you as well. You need to get that opportunity. Like, I mean, that lady now has definitely become a household name in education, and she's in Cyprus, which is fantastic. And I mean, to be given that opportunity, I mean, it's fantastic, because a lot of the bigger brands out there, I don't know if they can have their favorites sometimes. If you're not spending maybe like 200 grand a year on products and stuff, they mightn't give you your spotlight to shine. And which is obviously very, very wrong, because there's some amazing hairdressers out there that mightn't, well, in the past, might never have got that opportunity. But now with social media, you can be whoever you want to be, and you can basically target who you want to see, and just keep going and keep going and keep going, which is fantastic. Like, I mean, social media gets a bad rap for lots of different things, where I think it's a spotlight now at the moment that you can use to your advantage. But if you've got people like Simon in your corner, and you have something that you want the world to see, it's great to have a friend like that to kind of accelerate your progress with your education. So you've got something to, do you feel you can show, I'd get in touch with Simon, because this is a serious platform to be on. Really amazing platform to be on. I mean, where would you go on a Wednesday night at 6 o'clock? having like 200 people on at a time, which probably will elevate to thousands of people by the time it's all watched, all for free. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And do you know what? It's all down to the community, the people that watch it. It's the same names every week that share it and post it and promote it, and yourselves that come on there. It's all down to everybody. It's the community aspect. But I really, I am grateful. I often don't get time to come on to these lives anymore because of when I had my injury, but I'm going to try and get back on now more. But yeah, Lainey's saying like, oh wow, I think I passed out. But yeah, it's all down to you guys sharing it, so thank you.
The amazing success stories that have come from lockdown. Like, I mean, if Corona didn't exist, who knows? This mightn't have happened for any of us. So, you got to look at the positives as well. Like, I mean, there's been so many good things to come out of this, and I for one, with my business closed and stuff, like, there's not one day that's passed that I haven't enjoyed being up. I have to say, and there's not one day that's passed I haven't enjoyed being in work either. But I mean, these times they're definitely not going to last forever. I think there's no doubt about that. But what will eventually disappear is the opportunities that you might have had during these times when you're at home to better yourself, become a better hairdresser, even if you don't want to be a hairdresser anymore, to become something else.
Through
And that's why yeah.
So I always say this. I always say through adversity arises opportunity. So sometimes it feels like it's a bit of a shit time, but there's always something that appears because you wouldn't have had time to see it if you weren't in that situation.
And obviously things aren't going to fall out of the sky and just come to you. But you have to work at it, but the work does pay off. And like Simon is a testament to that. But in saying that, I am really looking forward to getting back to work as well, whatever we do, get back. Although I have to say our government over here have been pretty good to us in terms of supporting businesses. So, we're very grateful for that as well. I don't think anyone that has, a reasonably successful business is going to close down because, the government have backed us reasonably well. I think people give out about them the whole time as well. But like, I know we paid taxes for years, but like a lot of countries get no support whatsoever, where I can say that our government have been pretty good to us.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely amazing to hear that over there because obviously in England, I'll be honest with you, we don't hear a lot about how the Irish are coping. We obviously know because I'm friends with you, but I wouldn't know on news or media. I only know because I'm friends and I see people comment.
Everyone's got to be there for each other, like, and not everybody's going to be positive and strong every single day. But I think collectively as a unit, like we have a lot of fun. Based on like I suppose social platforms like this, and everybody's looking for something different to talk about. Like, I mean, I heard this question yesterday. That was really, really good. A really good conversation. If you were at a dinner table, if you could take 10 years off your body above your head or below your head, what would you choose? That's a really thought-provoking question, I have to say. And that seems to be the question that people are being asked rather than like, any plans for the weekend? Any partying? Are you going out? It's rather than like, 10 years here or 10 years here. I'm probably happy to take 10 years down here myself, I have to say. So we're here on the last section. Now, this sometimes basically is debatable because this is generally where you're going to wear your parting, and if it is seamless and you've done it correctly, you can continue with your technique. I mean, the only way you're ever going to know really about this is when it's all rinsed off. But like, I mean, sometimes this is where people might like to weave because just to be on the safe side. Me myself, I personally wouldn't, but there was a question asked if you would weave any of this at any stage. If you were, that's the one place you would do it because I mean, you should have like literally minuscule baby hairs left at this stage. If you've done everything correctly at this stage, and you can feel free to weave it. But I'm going to continue and do what I've been doing the whole way through it, and just take out those few little hairs and finish the look. And what I'd say to you is, if this is something that you haven't tried before, use your time wisely in lockdown over the next week or so. Get a mannequin head, get a wig, get your friend, get your mom, whoever it might be that are in your bubble at home, and try it on them because it is a great technique. And don't be afraid of making mistakes because you will make mistakes. I think like one thing that, I found really, I suppose, when I was trying to perfect this was you can get a little bit of bleeding if you're not very, very careful with the way you apply your color because blowing all those hairs out, you literally have to blow all those hairs out because more often than not, the hair might get caught in the pack that you're putting in, and therefore it ends up basically looking like a bit of a blob or a bit of an accident. And I mean, if that happens, that's okay. That's all right. I mean, you need to learn the hard way. There's nobody going to take to this like a duck to water, even though it might look easy and I've blown through it. I've been practicing this for a while now because it is something I want to use. Probably use mannequin heads first of all, I'd say, and just go back, analyze it, and you'll probably see the only mistakes you'll make, really, I suppose, is maybe bringing a little bit too much hair into it and not getting that little bit of a blur because you've had too much hair in the section. But keep practicing, because by the time you actually perfect this, you'll love doing it, and you'll certainly scratch your head twice about maybe going back to traditional methods of highlighting, because this is definitely the way forward. And it's so simple, but yet so creative, and gives the nicest finish possible. You're going to have lots of happy clients. And for those who do make the effort to come along and try and perfect this, you're going to end up basically being the talk of your town, because it is the look that all the Instagrammers are pulling their hair up at the back at the moment that everybody wants.
Yeah,
And that
absolutely.
is seamless blonding by myself.
That is incredible, mate. Thank you so much. I'll ram off a few questions while we're here. But Tony McGuinness has said, what volume are you using, please?
Well, pretty much the whole way through this, because the fact that I've pre-lightened this previously today, and this is just like color sync over the whole lot of it. And probably, Tony, while I would be doing this in the real world, it is time consuming, I would still start off with 10 volt, because I would very seldom do this on a head above a level 5. I just feel myself there's a little bit more work with it, and it looks nicer when it's grown out as well. When it's above level 6 with a 5, it just doesn't work as well. So I start off at 10, never really exceed 20, I have to say. I think 20 is more than enough. I think 20 is more than enough for any lighting technique. You just have to think of the tortoise in the hair. The journey is slow, but you'll get there. But the integrity of the hair will be there afterwards also.
Yeah, that's amazing, mate. A lot of thank yous coming in a minute rather than questions. Elaine says, love watching you, Nigel. Thank you very much. Nicola Soul says, amazing, thank you. Jackie Hurst, thank you. Claire Carlin, thank you. Loving this way of lighting, Nigel. You get great results. Somebody earlier said as well that you're fantastic at explaining it, that I didn't get a chance to read out. But yeah, thank you so much, mate. You've been absolutely incredible.
And I look forward to catching up to you maybe in a podcast in the next week or so.